Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the program. Once again this Wednesday morning with me, Julie Alli. We are together for the next hour and a half and we have some amazing guests on the show today. And yes, I do say that often enough, but I truly mean it when I say we have amazing guests. People from our community doing amazing work. We'll be talking to Kauthar Kader about women empowerment, and then we'll be looking at the issue around skin cancer with Dr. Irshad Mohammed. But first up, exciting times. We meet these amazing people from this amazing organization called Rosh Gold, and it's that time of year when they talk about the Young Business Achievers Awards, and it seems that I have a date with them every year at this time when the awards come around. It's a must-attend event, and I am so excited that one of the contestants, one of the finalists, is in studio with us as well. So let's get talking to the lovely Shakira Rahim Sali and Hassan Suleiman from Form Force Scaffolding. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam. Always a pleasure to be back, Julie.
Lovely to have you here, and a big moment in your life, isn't it?
It is, yes. Yeah.
Shakira, to you, and we meet every year round about this time, promoting YBAA, and I think it's really got the community involved, excited and on the go as regards these awards are concerned. Give us an overview, very especially for those people who don't understand what it's about, where and how Rosh Gold came up with the concept, and why we should continue supporting you and being excited.
Thanks for asking, Julie. So as you know, Rosh Gold is an investment company, and we founded the awards 3 years ago. It's to recognize, reward, and promote young business leaders in South Africa between the ages of 18 to 37-year-olds. So why we say this category, Julie, is because, you just need a hand up sometimes. They don't have that much experience, resources may be limited. We come in and we try and help them, and we grow their business. So in the past year, long story short, I'm just going to fast forward for you, we've had a total of 125 participants from around South Africa enter the Young Business Achiever Awards. Rosh Gold has traveled to our regional launches, as you know. We went to Cape Town, to Durban, within Johannesburg, in Pretoria as well. And from there, like I said, 125 participants. We launched the competition in September. We closed in November. Our 9 official judges have worked hard with a very strict rubric. It's been to our independent auditor, Audit Connection. It's been quite a process. Finalists like Hassan didn't make it easy for us because there are such phenomenal businesses out there, and I encourage the viewers to go to our website to see the full extent of what I'm speaking about, Julie. Where we are now today, ahead of Saturday, is we are preparing to celebrate our top 24 finalists and the top 5, where the winner will ultimately be announced. So this will happen at the prestigious Gala Awards and dinner, and it's all glitz and glam, and there's a lot of people flying in. Our participants are flying in 5 or 6 from Cape Town, from Durban. Our judges are coming in. Sponsors such as Alberca and Okof and Broadway were so generous with their prizes, along with Rosh Gold as well. So it's all about celebrating our young business achievers and promoting them and encouraging everyone to support them in their journeys.
And of course, everyone's eye is on the first prize. What is the giveaway this year?
Well, we've got for a start, a lot of cash, right, which all businesses use, need and use. Generously sponsored by Okof and Alberca. And I think you can watch our pages for more on that. We've got a trip to Turkey for the winner.
Oh, wow.
And a lot of mentoring and support and coaching. There's technology. There's a laptop sponsored by Tick IT up for grabs. There's also an Apple MacBook. There are so many to mention, but have a look on our Instagram page because we've spread them as much as we could, Julie. Like the top 5, of course, get the most prestigious prizes. But as much as Rosh Gold could, we tried to spread them across the board. Just recently, we launched a competition a day ago for all the participants, for their supporters, for their clients, for people who believe in them, to like their individual bios that we feature. And then they can win 5,000 Rand cash just to inject it into their business, whether it be for a website or product development or just that little bit that they need to progress. So lots of prizes up for grabs, and inshallah, every year we improve, even better for 2020.
Hassan Suleiman, welcome. Form Force Scaffolding. I had a look at your webpage, and you seem pretty established. And I kind of wondered, you are 10 years in the business, and I wondered, why would someone like you enter a competition like this?
Look, alhamdulillah, that's the perception we'd like to give off, that we're an established business. But we are. Look, we've been through it. 10 years is a long time. And one of the reasons we obviously wanted to enter is to showcase our business. You know, it's a market that not many people have ventured into, and not many of our people actually know about us in this business. So we want to showcase us, get the exposure, go out there and give our brand off, you know, and just show the people who we are, exactly what we're doing.
It's a very niche market. I mean, we don't even apply our minds to something like this. And I thought scaffolding, wow. And also dangerous space to be in, very especially for the workers. So how did you find yourself in this space, and why did you decide that this is the business that I'm going to build for myself?
Yeah, I will sometimes wonder also how I got into this space. But look, I come from a shipping background, so we come from a trading background, and we import and export. That's the family business that we were in, and we had a customer who had requirements for scaffolding and scaffolding components. So we imported this for the customer, and this was pre-2010 World Cup. The market was booming, the construction industry was booming, and we supplied it to the customer, and the customer told us, why don't you guys hold this stock for us? Because we need this. And I then decided to bring in the container. We held the stock, and we sort of showcased it to the market. And from there, we decided to open up. I decided to open up a standalone company. Form Force Scaffolding was born, and that's how it went. Yeah, slowly, but we got there.
Now, Shakira's got a pamphlet on her lap, and it's the 24 contestants. And you are, is it the 12 or 24?
24.
24, okay, very small. I don't think the camera will be able to pick it up. If it does, then great. You're one of the 5 finalists.
I am, alhamdulillah.
When you were told about it, what went through your mind, and what do you believe is going to give you the edge, inshallah, to be the number 1?
Yeah, when Shakira told me, it didn't really hit me, and you know, it was during the work day, and I got on with it, and then I realized, and as I started, you know, telling my family and friends, listen, this is what happened, and they were congratulating me, it then hit me. And now listening to Shakira again, and talking about all the people that entered the competition, and I'm honestly humbled and honored to be part of that top 5 finalists. I think I've got the edge because I know my business, I know my customers, what they want. We're out there, we've got a company that's growing. There's still a lot of hurdles in our business, there's still a lot of roadblocks that we're working through. But inshallah, we'll get there. And we need that exposure, we need that brand awareness to get out there and grow the business a lot more.
Shakira, he's hit the nail on the head, has he not? Because you enter a competition like this, of course your eye is on the number 1 prize.
Yes.
But even if you don't, you don't come out as a first prize, just the exposure, just the networking opportunities, just for getting in contact with like-minded people, perhaps, inshallah,
yes,
gives you the edge, gives you a different perspective on your business, and possibly steers you in the direction you need to be in.
I couldn't agree more, Julie, and I actually have a funny story for you on that point. You'd be surprised to know that before the top 5 were even announced, we had an inbox message on Instagram saying, hi, I noticed Form Force Scaffolding, and they're quite an interesting business I think we'd like to connect with. And guess who that was? It was the other top 5 finalist, Utiala, and they wanted to connect even before they knew where they stood in the competition.
Wow.
So this is the kind of interaction we like to make connections, and you never know what could come. A lot of our participants say that they were going through a slump in their business, and this was just the punt they needed to get to the right ears and to just get that sale in, or even that connection, a like, a follow, a phone call. So it's really phenomenal where this could go.
And just to elaborate on that, we actually met. He came to our office. We had a cup of coffee. We had a chat. There's some collaboration in the future, inshallah, and hopefully something comes of it.
And by the way, they were guests on the show as well.
Oh, okay.
So amazing couple, and I just absolutely love talking with them. So again, look at the connections and the forging ahead in terms of networking. I want us to concentrate a little bit on the other contestants and just let our viewers understand what a wide spectrum of people that have entered the competition, and that it's open, that believe in yourself, whatever it is that you're offering, even if you're a little corner shop bakery or a cottage industry, you stand in equal chance to someone like Hassan from Form Force Scaffolding. But let's go for an ad break. We'll be back to talk some more. Amazing event which is happening this coming Saturday at the Kurtuba College, and of course Rosh Gold YBAA, the third year in running. The first year when they were here talking about this competition, I kind of wondered, will it actually peter out in time, or is this a force to be reckoned with? Alhamdulillah, they're here to stay, and they certainly are a force to be reckoned with. Hassan Suleiman is one of the finalists on the YBAA, the Rosh Gold YBAA. The great and big event is happening this Saturday evening. We've also been told, unfortunately, the tickets are completely sold out. So if you haven't managed to get a ticket, then I'm really sorry for you, but inshallah, I will be attending and maybe give you some feedback. Back to you, Shakira, and the event. A lot of focus on Hassan, and we do wish you lots of good luck, lots of du'as. Yeah. But there are amazing other contestants and finalists. Tell us about them. And they do come from a very diverse background. 100%. Talk to us about them.
Before I mention them, I just want to say to all that wanted to attend and couldn't because we were sold out so quickly, ITV is covering us for the evening, so you can watch us live on ITV channel 347, as well as our Facebook and Instagram pages. On the top 24, Julie, the industries are so diverse. Like you said, the corner shop bakery to something very, technological, to the very green organizations. It's so diverse. And a few that I'd like to touch on. First, with the top 5, we mentioned Utiala, and her idea came from attending the Rosh Gold AGM where our awards happen. And she left there with her idea, and she put it into motion with her husband. They came back a year later, and as you can see, they're in the top 5. And her business is about teaching children how to think critically. They prepare them for the world, so to speak. So they bridge that gap between school and tertiary education, and the children are so much more well equipped to make decisions. Then we have Lutfia from Skin Station, and she's a business based in Durban. What I personally liked about her is that she treats a person's skin from a very holistic and therapeutic perspective, and it's about healing you in your totality. It's not about just on the surface. She's very passionate, and she's very empowering to her staff as well. Besides Skin Station and Utiala, we have Pedro's Flame Grilled Chicken.
Wow.
I don't know if you've heard of them, but I was blown away. At the time of the competition, Musa Bucks is the entrant for Pedro's. He entered with 12 franchises in existence. By the time we went through his entry and we looked at his website, he had 17, and that was in November, December. So I'm talking about September to November. Now, if you look on his website, Julie, he's got 19. I don't know how we can explain this growth. It's phenomenal. It's phenomenal. We interviewed him live with the judges, and he has such a great sense of his business. He knows his numbers, and he is on a continuous force,
Now,
going
that
forward.
being said, Shakira, I'm just wondering for next year, for example,
Yes.
when people hear about Hassan Suleiman's business, Form 4 scaffolding,
Yes.
it's really, he's also wanting to go into, go outside of South Africa onto the African continent and even beyond if he can.
Yes.
That's your big dream and vision for your business, and inshallah may you realize it. And now you're talking about Pedro's Chicken, but what about all those very smaller businesses, those very small cottage industries? I know that you have someone there that is a hairdresser, but of a truly high standard.
Yes.
You have some bakers there, you have some very niche home industries. So I'm kind of wondering, do they not worry about people like Hassan and Pedro's? Do they not believe or feel that they're up against giants and they don't stand a chance, for example?
Look, Julie, within this year's top 5 as well, the last one I didn't mention is yet hot chefs from Cape Town. Her name is Amara Peterson, and she came from a family of people who love food. And she took her love of food to another level, and she became a professional chef, and she's still growing her business. So she's focused in Cape Town, and I feel like, you know what, it is giants that we're promoting here as well. They getting bigger and bigger, but there is room for the smaller businesses too. Sugarlicious in 2017, she started off that time pretty early. This year in 2019 in our awards, she's a sponsor to the competition.
Wow.
So you can just see her growth within these 3 years. So I don't feel that people should be disheartened that, oh, do I stand a chance against these giants? No. Have a look at our profiles that we feature. We just focus on certain criteria, including, for Rush Gold, it's very important that you need to be a business that is socially aware. So a lot of these companies, they do a lot for their community. Do they have employment creation as a direct outcome of their existence? Hassan employs 55 people, whereas Amara may be a little bit smaller, under 10, but still she made it to the top 5, and she's got a fair chance of competing for that winning position. So I feel that whatever business you have, look at our judging criteria, take the application form, use it as a learning experience. We discussed this before in a previous interview. You just doing that application, you learn so much more about yourself and your business. And Rush Gold challenges you every time. So I think take a chance, just go for it, and you never know where you may end up. You win either way.
Absolutely. Hassan, where and how did you hear about YBAA, and what made you take that leap and decide to go for it and to enter? And what have you learned from that experience up to now?
I think the first time I heard about YBAA was when the competition was held last year. I follow one of the previous winners on Instagram, so we've always Yusuf Umar.
Mm-hmm.
So we've seen it from there. And one of the reasons I actually wanted to enter was because, we in this industry, entrepreneurship is a lonely road, and I thought, let me get into this. Let me get into I'm hearing now from yourselves that we are giant in the business.
That's a perception. Obviously,
we've
that's a
never
perception.
considered ourselves that.
Okay.
So all of this sort of exposure, it actually gives us that little bit extra. So I thought, let me join the YBAA and just see, am I on the right track? We in 10 years into the business, but it's 10 years that sort of rolled over from one year to the next, to the next, to the next. And it's a difficult market to break into. So we've sort of broken into that market, and getting that exposure, getting that acknowledgement, just that sort of tap on the shoulder that you say, you are in the right direction,
Wow.
You are going in the right place, so you are doing something right. Yeah.
What have you learned differently? What have you learned that you didn't know prior to entering the YBAA?
I've learned that, to acknowledge what we've done. It's always been that maybe the business is not enough. Maybe am I doing the right thing, or am I on the right road? And I think what this has done, it's given me that acknowledgement to say, you are onto something. Pursue it, continue on the road that you are, and hopefully, it will be into a huge business later on, a few years down the line.
Was there ever a time during your 10-year journey that you felt you want to throw in the towel? I can't any longer. Competition's too stiff. The guys out there, there's a cabal that's controlling this area of the business. It's something our people have never given a thought of going into.
Every day on my way here. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a roller coaster ride, as they say. I mean, you'd get into the office in the morning, you'd be in the highest spirits because you've just got a big order, you've won an order, and the next thing, 5 minutes later, you're down again because the customer doesn't want to pay you or he's pulling your payment. It's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah.
And I think every day you go through these emotions. You're on a high and you're on a low. You're on a high and you're on the low.
Alhamdulillah. And may this journey that you've undertaken with YBAA give you that inspiration, that motivation, and that inner strength
That's what we need.
to carry on from day to day. What do you believe Harun Pochi would have responded or said to people like him?
Listening to Hassan, I'm re-loving reading that application form of his, and I think for myself and more importantly the judges and Mr. Pochi being the founder of the YBAA, the honesty of his experience being an entrepreneur, identifying both his strengths. Hassan is very humble, but we must give him credit where it's due, but also that he can identify his strengths and his weaknesses. And that allows us to come in even better and say, okay, how can we help him? Whether it be with the mentoring, we've got an academy, we've got life coach Razia. I think it's very nicely built around getting the entrepreneur to overcome those obstacles. And this is the kind of honesty we want to hear. It's not always that, that rag to riches story, I started off here. If it is so, then yes, that's fine. But I think whatever your situation is in your business, why did you start? Where are you going? What are your strengths and weaknesses? How can we help you? Be very honest about that. And I think that allows us to help you even further. And on that point, Julie, you can't get past the judges on this. Whatever Hassan has said, he'll tell you. Besides his form that he sent, the judges interrogate all information. We make sure that the finalists and the winners are deserving. We've had live Zoom calls and all of that was checked, and Hassan came out on top. So alhamdulillah, it's quite a process, but it's very rewarding at the end.
We've almost come to the end of the program. Let me give you a minute or two to quickly summarize and give a message of hope to other contestants and for people in the future why they should be entering YBAA.
I think we've got to thank YBAA and the Roche Gold for the platform that they've provided, to showcase our businesses, the exposure that we get. I mean, it's not just the actual prizes, but the total exposure that we've received, the calls, it was the support, the social media going out, and inshallah we'll receive a lot more customers from that.
Ameen. Ameen. Good luck.
No, Jazakallah. Thank you so much.
Shakira, in closing, what I do want to ask, and maybe this is a question for Harun Pochi, but why does Roche Gold promote this in such a big way? What's in it for them?
So, Julie, I think, of course, for us, it is the interaction with our new, fresh blood, young business achievers. We do hope that they come on board with us as a family going forward in future, because we look at it as a Roche Gold family. There are benefits that we give our participants, but I think there are also benefits of them joining us, maybe as shareholders, maybe as partners, maybe as sponsors. I mentioned Sugarlicious, Chili Chocolate Chefs is another example. So I think joining us as a family and growing together is what we hope to achieve.
Always wonderful talking to you and the Roche Gold guys, Harun, Ibrahim, Suji, all of them. Salams to all. And I know it's going to be a great event. Good luck to you and to all the other contestants. And shukran once again for being on the show with me.
Thank you so much.
There you have it, one of the participants on this amazing competition, YBAA Roche Gold Awards, and he is Hassan Suleiman. But to the rest of the finalists, our very best wishes and duas, and thank you to the Roche Gold team for doing this amazing work. And I do know this is one of the CSI projects as well, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward them. We're going to be talking skin cancer in a minute or two, and thereafter women empowerment. Welcome back. We now have Dr. Irshad S06 in studio. He is a dermatologist based at the Mayo Clinic in Florida. And we're going to be talking skin cancer. We are told that South Africa has the second highest incidence of skin cancer in the world. And annually, up to 22,000 people are diagnosed with skin cancer. So let's get talking to the doctor and find out why we're not hearing more about the issues around skin cancer and what do we do to prevent this. A whole host of questions are going to be answered by way of this interview. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum assalam, jazakallah for having me.
Jazakallah for being here. I know that you've had to reschedule your diary just to accommodate us, and we do appreciate it greatly. Jazakallah so much. Irshad, why is it that we hear about all other dreaded cancers like your breast cancer, prostate and others, and skin cancer seems to be almost under the radar? It was Skin Cancer Awareness Month last month, and yet there wasn't all that much of hype that I'd expected to see. And now we've also been told that South Africa is second on the list as far as skin cancer is concerned. Why is that, and why are we not creating more awareness around this issue?
If you look at the incidences of skin cancer, the top 3 countries in the world would probably be South Africa, Australia and New Zealand. You'll find that the main reason why we tend not to have a lot of awareness regarding it is because skin cancer in most cases can go fairly unnoticed.
Oh.
So there are many people who don't become patients. They may have a small, very unassuming red spot, maybe think it's a spot of eczema or a spot of psoriasis or from an insect bite reaction, apply a bit of topical cream obtained from the bathroom cabinet or from the pharmacist. And what happens is that type of skin cancer tends to grow very indolently or slowly, without much of a fuss. And in some instances, especially when cancers are over the back or the posterior part of the trunk, patients don't even notice it until they either undress or use the family pool where someone actually notices it. So you'll find that a lot of the times there's not many symptoms to the skin cancer. For example, with other cancers, you may get pain, you may get a perceivable lump, which would prompt the patient to go and seek medical advice sooner. But a lot of the times, skin cancers tend to be very, very, like you say, unnoticed and under the radar for much of their time. And if you find that countries like Australia, over the past almost 20 plus years, they've begun to embark upon a skin cancer awareness campaign, which is only now beginning to bear fruit for them. Because that generation who was taught in kindergarten or in grade R or primary school on how to use long sleeves, caps, sunscreens, together with their education institutions, who changes their timetables to allow for the children to be outdoors only in lesser sun exposure times. They are beginning to reap the benefits now. Not only are those patients more aware of skin cancer, they begin to participate in more protective mechanisms against sun exposure. And South Africa does have a very, admittedly thus far, low-key skin cancer screening campaign, which is promoted by the Cancer Association. But there is another one that is also promoted by the Skin Cancer Foundation of South Africa, which is actually supported by and started by a group of dermatologists who are trying to emulate the efforts of their Australian counterparts.
Wow. So obviously it has something to do with our geographical location. And I'm also wondering if that is the case, what about the Middle East? They too have lots of sun during their summer months, and I should imagine even during the winter months. So how are we different to them, and why is the incidence that much lower or possibly not presenting at all?
There are many factors if you had to compare the two geographical locations. Firstly, South Africa, and if you take Australia and New Zealand as well, the weather is fantastic for us to participate in outdoor activities. Us being South Africans, we are constantly playing rugby, cricket, soccer, surfing. We braai regularly. So our activities that we participate in are usually outdoor activities. We are an outdoor population. And the reason why we are an outdoor population is because our weather allows for it.
Absolutely.
And you'll find that when people dress for outdoor activities, they tend to dress in sleeveless tops, shorts, sometimes perhaps maybe a hat. We have national sporting teams that engage us at their stadiums for sometimes days on end. If you look at South African cricket, for example. If you look at the Middle East, yes, it is hot. Yes, there is long sun exposure days. The advantage in a way is that the sun is so debilitating that people will tend to seek the shade. It is not conducive for an outdoor activity.
And they're more active after hours, after dark, so to speak.
Usually. In addition, there may certainly be a protective factor from the type of clothing that they tend to wear.
Right.
Usually long kurtas, or they will be using niqab or abayas, which tend to be protective against sun exposure. So there are a few reasons as to why you see a different incidence patterns between the two. However, for my colleagues who are from the Middle East, when we meet at conferences, you would find a lot of input from them with their experiences with patients with skin cancer. So it's not that the incidence is zero, but the incidence is certainly lower than what we see in Australia, South Africa and New Zealand.
So Ishaq, we've also told, very especially for women, that they're not, women are being diagnosed as being deficient in vitamin D simply because they're not getting enough sunshine. So on the one hand, you want to get the vitamin D directly from the sunshine. On the other hand, there's the risk of the skin cancer. What's the answer? Yes, absolutely.
Vitamin D undergoes two activation processes. Vitamin D that's taken generally is not usable by the body. The first step of activation occurs through the skin, and that activation is UV induced. The second step of activation occurs in the kidney, and then only does the vitamin D become usable by the body in some sort of beneficial form. Now, you probably require somewhere between about 10 and 14 hours of incidental sunlight exposure in a week in order for you to get activation of your vitamin D, the first step of activation. So by you standing outside and hanging a washing or tending to a few plants in the garden, sitting at a kid's soccer activity after school or an extramural, that sometimes is sufficient enough for you to get activation of your vitamin D in the first step of activation. Coming to the sunscreen controversy, we do still advocate, as the Derm Society of South Africa, we still do advocate the use of sunscreens, because we think that in a South African environment, because we have so many sunlight days in the year, our people tend to get enough sunlight exposure for activation of vitamin D. The sunscreen is still beneficial in protecting you against excessive sunlight exposure. So there has to be a balance. If you're going to compare the South African environment and weather to a place, for example, like London, where there are fewer and much fewer sunlight days in a year, using a sunscreen on a regular basis may render you vitamin D deficient because you are not getting enough sunlight exposure for activation.
So on the one hand, you're wanting the sunlight because of the vitamin D. On the other hand, you are possibly at risk of skin cancer. And are you then suggesting that the sunscreen will offer possibly partial protection?
The sunscreen offers, yes, in a way,
against skin
cancer. Partial protection. It will also assist you in aging more gracefully as well. So sunscreens certainly do have a benefit. Even the high SPF types of sunscreens, they certainly offer you a good protection against a variety of things, including other dermatosis or conditions that are triggered and driven by the sunlight. For example, lupus is another example of that, or photodermatitis, or polymorphic light eruption. those are skin conditions that are also driven predominantly by sunlight. So using a sunscreen in that context will also provide you with protection. But in the South African context, if you are still using a high SPF sunscreen on a regular basis, the weather is still conducive enough to allow you for sufficient activation of vitamin D.
Okay, and what would be the right protection factor that one should be using as far as sunscreen is concerned?
Ideally, you should be using SPF 50 plus.
Okay. Skin cancer and South Africa, we are a majority of black people in South Africa. There is the notion that we shouldn't worry because darker skinned people and also men are not at risk because their skins are that much stronger.
Okay, to separate that question for you, let's first start with the darker skin patients. Yes, their skins are a little bit more resilient to the sun exposure. Their darker skins tend to offer a natural SPF in their skin somewhere between 5 and about 7. You will find that despite that, they are prone to skin cancer, although less so from a fairer or a Caucasian skin. There are certain types of skin cancers that may be lethal that are more common amongst darker skin patients. For example, if you look at the type of skin cancer called melanoma, there are certain subtypes of melanoma, for example, the acral lentiginous melanoma, which tends to occur on the soles and the palms, or even in some cases underneath the nail. Now, you would wonder that these are places that are generally not excessively sun exposed, but more than half the patients with acral lentiginous melanoma tend to be darker skin patients. And the sequelae or the complications for them are a lot more drastic. If there isn't a mortality from that, you usually end up with the necessity for amputation in some cases. So while they may get skin cancer in terms of numbers overall fewer than Caucasian patients, the problem that they may experience in the longer term may be far, far more drastic for them. And then coming to male patients, generally speaking, male patients are also prone to skin cancer. For example, balding men may not necessarily be wearing a cap or a hat and may sometimes forget to apply a sunscreen on their scalps. The incidence of skin cancer on the scalp is actually quite high, including the rim or the outer part of the ear. Because in female patients, they are more likely to have a hairstyle that tends to be sometimes protective over the upper part of the ear, or they may be wearing a scarf, or they may be wearing a hat. So male patients do get skin cancer, except that you'll find that on the scalp, they tend to have skin cancer a lot more.
Do men or bald men realize that they need to be using protective gear or possibly creams on their heads to prevent skin cancer appearing?
Not all of them realize the exposure that the scalp actually takes. Being where it is almost facing the sun at all times.
Absolutely.
And generally, when we all apply a facial cream, sunscreen included, we tend to omit the ears as part of that application.
True.
When in fact, your ears, technically speaking, should be part of your face.
Absolutely.
So even if they do apply a sunscreen, it's usually limited to certain parts of the face. Ears get omitted, scalps get omitted, and those areas tend to be a little bit higher risk because they're not being protected as well as the other areas.
Let's go for an ad break. When we come back, we're going to talk signs, symptoms and treatment on skin cancer. Dr. Irshad Ishaq is my guest. He is a dermatologist. He practices at Mayo Clinic in Florida, and we are talking skin cancer. So stay with us. We'll be back with you in a minute or two. We're talking to Dr. Irshad Ishaq Mohammed. He's a dermatologist. We're talking skin cancer. What is it that one tends to look out for? Off air, we were talking about if a parent or a sibling presented with some form of cancer, that doesn't necessarily mean that I could present with skin cancer. So if my mother perhaps had breast cancer, I should be looking out or be vigilant as far as breast cancer is concerned in my lifetime, rather than worry about a skin cancer?
If, generally speaking, cancers overall, provided that they are localized or limited to the organ where they originate from, for example, breast cancer or stomach cancer or colon cancer, if there is no spread elsewhere, then the rest of the family would be more prone to developing that type of cancer rather than having a higher risk for skin cancer per se. Unless that cancer has spread elsewhere, then that particular patient may have secondaries or metastases or spread to the skin. But that would be, for example, a colon cancer that has spread to the skin rather than the skin developing a primary skin cancer.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. So let's talk signs, symptoms, what one looks out for, treatment options, and if caught early enough, because we're told about breast cancers and prostate, that if caught early enough, it is curable, that you have a really good survival rate of survival.
Generally, the survival rate for skin cancers is excellent, provided that it's picked up relatively early. And when I'm speaking now going forward, I'm talking predominantly about the skin cancers that are sun-induced. They can be extremely innocuous and indolent. You won't even notice you're developing one. But some of the things to look out for is an itchy spot that may be turning a bit red, a slight scale over the top, a sore that doesn't heal. You've been applying an antibiotic cream over that for quite a while. You may thought you may have injured yourself, but the sore just refuses to heal. Especially in areas where the sun usually would be falling on. So it'll be the face, the scalp, the back of the hand, the forearm, the shin area. As time goes by, that particular area becomes larger, not necessarily pain. Pain may be an extremely late feature if it even occurs. You may find other similar spots in the surrounding area as well. And it may even just be a solitary spot. So those are the kind of features for a non-melanoma type of skin cancer. If you look at melanoma skin cancers, there are two pathways they can occur. So a spot that was never there before that now suddenly arises and then begins to either widen, may become painful, may become itchy, may become elevated above the skin. Or alternatively, a mole that previously seemed to have been behaving fairly stable, no activity in it, and then over a short period of time begin to widen in area, the border becomes a bit irregular, there's a bit of darkening or color changes, and again, if that lesion becomes elevated, and it doesn't have to be large. There have been lots of reports of invasive melanoma when diagnosed, probably about 1 millimeter or 2 in diameter. So may just be passed off initially as a freckle or as a new beauty spot, where in fact the lesion actually is beginning to invade. So it's not the width of the lesion that's worrisome, it's usually the depth of the lesion that's worrisome. So if there's any change, and we usually tell people every now and then, every 4 weeks, every 6 weeks, examine yourself in front of a mirror and with another small handheld mirror. Look at all your moles. Are they all looking similar to each other? Is there one that's the ugly duckling? You may not be able to actually describe why it looks different or why it's looking unique compared to the others, but get a feel or an idea of what all your moles look like. If you think one is beginning to change in some way, even though you may not be able to put your finger on it, have it checked out. Usually you can start with a GP who will examine it. If they are unsure, they probably refer to a dermatologist. And dermatologists will either use the dermatoscope to get a better look at that particular lesion. We can appreciate the color patterns in that a little bit better, the vascular patterns, which will also give us an idea as to whether this is something to worry about and would then require a biopsy for diagnostic purposes, or is it something that's benign and you kind of need to be reassured. And in terms of treatment options, it largely depends upon the type of the tumor itself. It'll depend upon the site, so where it's occurring. It'll also depend upon the subtype, because some will require surgery and not all of them require surgery, because you can get away with a few chemotherapy agents which can be applied in certain protocols for you to take away home. So this is not done in the hospital where you are receiving IV medication. It doesn't have to always be like that. So there are some types of skin cancers that can be treated with supervision by yourself at home, but you need to come back for follow-up to ensure that what you were treating is now completely gone, and then surveillance thereafter is exceptionally important. In some cases, you can freeze the tumors, you can inject and you can curette and you can burn them, you can cut them in some cases, you can inject in certain cases chemotherapy agents into the lesion itself, directly into the lesion, which would spare you relatively from the systemic side effects of chemotherapy. Radiotherapy can also be used, and then there are more advanced surgical techniques which are what we call tissue saving. So we will cut just enough to remove the tumor, and that's usually reserved for tumors that occur on the face, large tumors, patients who are not candidates for large operations. So we keep the surgery as localized as possible and as small as possible, but still ensuring complete clearance. So there are many treatment options for skin cancer, and skin cancers and pre-skin cancers for that matter. If they are caught and recognized early, the prognosis actually is excellent.
Pre-skin cancer, just give us a brief overview. How would that be different to a full-blown skin cancer?
These diagnoses are made upon histology. So when we send the specimen of skin off to the lab, it tells us how aggressive or how much of misbehavior is there in the lesion. And depending on lab criteria, we can render something being precancerous, which would still require treatment because its natural evolution will be to a full-blown skin cancer. Or is it a skin cancer? And I like to view it as being a spectrum of disease, where on the one end you have normal skin, subsequently you have sun-damaged skin, misbehavior, and then cancer. So you need to work out where along the spectrum of disease the patient actually is. And from there you will institute different modalities of treatment, either alone or in combination, to get them sorted out.
And we've come to the end of the show. Is there anything of importance that you do want to share with our viewers before we say goodbye to you?
I think if I could give you one take-home message, is that if you have a spot or if you have an area which you are in doubt about, have it checked out.
Very quickly, older people present with a lot of moles all over their body, and people view it as being part of the aging process. Is that something to be worried about?
What you're referring to is most likely a condition called seborrheic keratosis.
That's right.
Completely benign, not related to skin cancers at all. It does come up more in numbers in elder patients, but they don't pose any risk for the patients except for cosmetics.
But good idea to have
still have it checked out. Still have it checked out at least, because you do get certain types of pigmented seborrheic keratosis that could mimic melanoma. So you just want to make sure that that isn't the case.
Okay, thank you indeed. That's all we have time for, but lots of information that we're going home with today. And let's be aware, very especially in South Africa, let's not forget that we need to protect our skins, and the protection factor has to be 50 and above, and just slap it on all the time. Jazakallah for being with us on the show. That was Dr. Irshad Ishaq Mohammed, dermatologist based at Mayo Clinic in Florida, talking to us about skin cancers. And of course, we're coming to the end of a long, hot summer. That doesn't mean that in the winter months we must go slack. We continue our regime of protecting our skins, being safe and cancer-free, skin cancer-free. Welcome back, and now for a dose of spirituality by Sheikha Kauthar. And it's not only about spirituality, it's about enlightenment, it's about empowerment, it's about upliftment, it's about taking control of your life, about making, it doesn't matter how busy your life is, it's about going forward. If you think you don't know how to move forward, then Sheikha is the person to go to, because she will help you. She's not only a Sheikha, she's also into motivational speaking, motivation, inspiration, coaching, counseling, and a whole host more. She's been in the space for a very long time, and she is here to uplift us, not only as Muslim women in our community, but women in general. Gives me great pleasure to welcome the beautiful Sheikha Kauthar to the program this morning and to inspire, motivate and enlighten us. Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the program.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear sister, how are you doing this morning?
With your du'as, alhamdulillah, and I'm so pleased to meet you, very especially in this day and age where there's so much of Islamophobia around, and the fact that when Western people, and perhaps even our own people, when they see a sister in niqab, they're almost dismissive of her because they believe that she's oppressed, she doesn't have a voice, she doesn't have intellect, and she's best locked up or closed, live her days happily behind closed doors. What's your response to that type of thinking?
Shukran jazeelan, my dear sister. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. MashaAllah, honorable viewers of ITV, we say to Ahlan bikum. And alhamdulillah, we're very pleased and honored to be with you live this morning. Alhamdulillah. Yes, Sister Julie, I think it all has to do with the female herself. In fact, the words of Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he says, Al-Ummu madrasa, that the mother is the teacher, she's the inspiration, she's the university. So ultimately, how we develop ourselves, the level of intellect, the level of knowledge that we acquire, that will be the ultimate impression that we will give to the world. So if we're going to give that impression that we are oppressed women and we're locked in, or we're going to create a perception, then that will be very unfortunate. So it's all about us as individual women, how serious we are about empowerment, how serious we are about developing ourselves and our intellectuality. And this is so important because there's this huge gap, Sister Julie, between our women of today and women of yesteryear. Women of yesteryear had more relaxed environments. They were either completely stay-at-home moms, unlike today where we find, subhanallah, that the sisters are intellectual, they're educated, they're between juggling everything. And in fact, I give the title that we have become super moms, because we have to be academic, we have to be Islamic, we have to be domestic executives. And this is a very good title that we need to give to our women folk, because actually it's a job in totality. And mashallah, if we look to the words of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will see that there is this huge need, and we will understand that why Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says in this beautiful hadith that the mother is the ultimate. She's the molder, the inspirator. She is the activator, the terminator of the household. And if the mother is unintellectual or she's not educated enough, we will find that the children, the household, everything else will collapse.
And alhamdulillah, that is why we are told that Jannah lies at the feet of your mother.
Absolutely.
And that is the high accolade and respect that we pay to women in general. And our beloved Nabi Kareem sallallahu alaihi wasallam has emancipated women way back 1400 odd years ago, and only the West is only beginning to realize the worth of a woman and how she needs to be respected and loved and really accoladed for how she brings up her family, because a strong family is a strong community.
Absolutely.
And a strong community is a strong nation.
Yes, totally, absolutely true, Sister Julie. In fact, I experienced this a lot in previous times where I traveled to European countries, the likes of London, the UK, the United States of America, subhanallah, because usually when I was invited to attend conferences and world conference, subhanallah, the first thing I would bring to their mind is, I'm in total hijab. And then they said to me, no, we're not worried about your dress code, we're worried about what's happening, in your intellectuality, how well you think, how well refined you are. And mashallah, so this is the impression and the perception that we need to create as Muslimat. Because mashallah, the powerful and dynamic women of Islam, the likes of Khadija radiallahu anha, Aisha radiallahu anha, these powerful women who were hawla Rasul, the women around the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, these women are not just famous in their decade or in their time, because of the intellectuality and the enormous contribution that they made economically, spiritually, socially, educationally, etc. They will be famous until Qiyamah. Subhanallah. And this is what we need to take heed of. If we want to become powerful and dynamic, We need to take the most powerful and dynamic examples, and in fact from there we will progress. So what I've experienced, from the platforms internationally as far as the European or the non-Muslim countries, is that in actual fact it is all about how you project yourself and how serious you are about being a Muslim, and how serious you are about accepting education as being holistic in Islam, and personal development and empowerment, subhanallah.
And I think underpinning all of that is how you as a Muslim, or how we as Muslims and Muslim women uphold all of our values.
Absolutely. And this is why we have to, da'wah in Islam is so important. It's not just a matter of going onto a platform and saying a few impressive words. Da'wah in its totality is how we project ourselves, our personality, our character, our adab, our akhlaq, our interaction with insan in general, not only with Muslims. We need to create a perception that is very much a misconception out there. We need to say to the world, this is what Islam have produced, and this is exactly who we are, and profoundly what we are. And from there, people will learn to respect us. They will see the beauty about Islam. And mashallah, as Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam teaches us in a beautiful hadith, that a Muslim has to be a mirror to other people. And when you look into the mirror, mashallah, and you see beautiful things, everybody wants to be like that.
Absolutely.
So that is how we need to project ourselves, inshallah al-aziz.
Now, I know you've been on The Voice of the Cape, and you've done many, many, many public talks and lectures, and you also run an academy in Athlone in Cape Town. We're going to talk about that and your other dawah work, inshallah, after the ad break.
Shukran jazeelan.
Sheikha Kauthar is in studio with me talking about women empowerment, and the fact that we as Muslim women, despite the fact that we may be in hijab or niqab, we are and should be a force to be reckoned with, just by the way we portray ourselves, how we uphold our values, and how we do our dawah work. I think we'll be able to turn the entire Islamophobic narrative around, not only in our immediate vicinities, but I think globally. So it is our duty as Muslims, and particularly Muslim women, to go out there and do dawah in the proper way, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we're pleased to be in the company of Sheikha Kauthar. She's from the Western Cape, and she's here to share the details about her academy and how we as Muslim women, it is our responsibility to take control of our immediate lives, our destinies, and to go out and do dawah in the proper way. Sheikha, when that statement that I've just made now, it's not about anything in a very huge way, publicizing it in a very big way, just by my little acts of kindness, and perhaps making non-Muslims understand what Islam is all about, or even in my own community, if I see people erring, go out and correct them. That in itself is dawah, and that is an important role we all should be playing without feeling that I'm interfering.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. Amma ba'd. Yes, mashallah, respected Sister Julie, because Islam is a holistic religion. Islam is a way of life in totality, subhanallah. So we find that by means of inspiration, it will be a complete projection, an image that we create. So our interaction, our public life, our portfolio in a public space, in a private space, we might find it sometimes very insignificant, when we, with the cleaners at home or the people in the office. These are the people, they are around us every day. Our spouses, our children, our neighbors, our friends, our colleagues, our students, our co-workers. And, you have to have the type of personality that people would want to be around you. And Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam, mentions in another hadith that the best of people are those people, when you think of them, when you meet them, when you're longing for them, they bring smiles and joy and happiness. So this is the perception that we have to create about how we have to be around people, subhanallah, and that is a means of da'wah. In other words, by making da'wah, it will become a complete reflection on how we ultimately interact. And mashallah, you know, this is where the positive energies, the dynamics of motivational, personal development, psychology, this is where it all comes in. And mashallah, it's mentioned in the Quran. It's mentioned in so many ahadith. All we need to do is to revert back to the teaching and the sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ.
You mentioned something very important, and I think a lot of us are guilty of it. We talk about dawah, we want to go out there and we want to get scores of people, local people, the indigenous people, to embrace Islam. We want to show them the beauty of Islam because it is an incomparable religion by far. They say by the year 2050 it's going to be the #1 religion in the world.
Ameen.
Alhamdulillah. But yet I think we fall very short. We talk about our workers, and that's our first port of call. How we treat, we want the whole world to embrace Islam, but we treat our workers so badly, so poorly. We either underpay them or we treat them very, very harshly. We don't treat them with respect and kindness. We actually draw blood from them, and that a lot of us are very, very guilty of.
Yes, so
what do
true.
you say to that?
Yes, not only the workers per se, I would refer even to relatives, to neighbors. And you know, we can make the da'wah even by loading petrol at the petrol station.
Just a kind word and a smile.
Absolute kind word, you know. And I think so often when we as women are in hijab and niqab, we want to create a perception that we're holier than thou. Mm-hmm. In Arabic, we say, ahbib habibaka hawnamma. It means whatever we do, we have to do it in moderation. We don't become extreme, because in Islam, extremism could lead to batil or to kufr. So the beauty about Islam, it teaches us the road of wasata, which means the road of modesty, the road in the middle.
Absolutely.
So the minute we're going to become extreme, then we're going to lose the focus.
Either way.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. So you don't need to have a jolly conversation with a man in order to show him, mashallah, look how wonderful women in niqab or hijab are. You can just say a few kind words, may God bless you, or thank you, brother, or you've been just so kind, or thank you for giving me a good service. And mashallah, every little word, Sister Julie, we never know when we can hit it. Subhanallah.
That being said, alhamdulillah, you're running an academy in the Western Cape, and I know that the type of academic studies being offered is management and life skills, anger and stress management, counseling and motivational training. We have a huge problem in our communities around anger. Lots of marriages are in trouble, young and old marriages. We have issues in our own immediate families where there's disrespect amongst each other. There's a lot of abuse going on. How do we address all of that? And by way of your academy, what is it that you are, the type of knowledge you're imparting so that you're putting out stronger, more empowered women that can withhold all of the stress and be able to be women in their own right, strong women in their own right?
The first realization has to come from within, Sister Julie. I think there's a lot of our women still who is very much, I would hate to use the word fatigue or asleep, and I say this with love and affection. Nobody's going to realize your worth. It starts with you yourself. إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِقَوْمٍ حَتَّى يُغَيِّرُ مَا بِأَنفُسِهِمْ. Allah Ta'ala is closer than our own jugular vein, and He's prepared to change your condition if you are prepared to change it your own self. And subhanallah, it has to come within. You have to uplift yourself, find the need, because every person should have and has a definite need for personal development. And because our situations differ, as I mentioned earlier in the program, to yesteryear. We are women, we are under stressed, we are overpaid, underpaid, we have economical situation, overworked, overweight, subhanallah.
Everything.
And by the time we go to bed at night, there's not even enough time. There needs to be powerful and dynamic time to chill out. We use the word chilling out, but we don't use it collectively in our lifestyle. For example, there has to be fitness walks. Fitness is a frame of mind. It's a personal state of being. So there has to be a fitness level of emotional, psychological, physical. That's so important in Islam, subhanAllah, because the Prophet ﷺ teaches us to eat correctly, to live correctly, to run, to go for fitness walks and strolls. And this is very much so gym, exercising, uplifting yourself, going out there. But firstly, beloved Sister Zuleika, is realizing that you have to get up and do it for yourself.
Love yourself first before you can start loving the people around you.
I have a very beautiful saying which I usually use in my lectures. The golden rule in Islam is La darara wa la dirar. Do not harm yourself, neither harm others. So what we learn from that is the fact that by assisting yourself and assisting others, you also become a huge contributor in society. So at the end of the day, subhanAllah, everything starts with yourself. In life, everything has a beginning and everything has an end. Not only our personal lives, but everything for that matter. And mashallah, our sisters are extremely special. Our sisters are dynamic, mashallah, they're progressive, they want to do things, and they are super moms, mashallah. Our women, in fact, are amazing. And I think this is also where we need to educate our men folk, subhanallah, how special they are. As I mentioned, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was a helper, he was a cook. He was a companion, he was an imam, he was a politician, a businessman. So the men out there, if they're cooking, if they're doing chores, if they're assisting with the kids, putting them to bed, helping with the homework, they're being a man in its totality.
Absolutely.
And that is what we need. We need unity, because Allah says with unity there will be strength, inshallah.
2 minutes to wrap up. Can you quickly summarize for us the importance of women empowering themselves? How it's going to empower the entire family, your community, and make this world, inshallah, a better place?
I mean, my beloved sisters in Islam, reach for the sky today, because tomorrow might be too late. Never think that tomorrow I could make a change. Start today, because tomorrow is not guaranteed. No one promised tomorrow. So in fact, inshallah, whatever you had in mind, if there's a desire, if there's a motivation, if there's a need to become or to do something, do it yesterday, do it today, do it ajilan ghayra ajil, sooner than soon. Inshallah, everything starts with haraka, with a move, and then haraka fil haraka baraka. When you make the move, Allah will send the barakah. So inshallah al-aziz, make that move. Allah ta'ala will do the rest for you. You just remain positive, you remain progressive, and remember that you are totally special. Women are nurun ala nur, and it all depends on you, my beloved sisters in Islam, inshallah. So nuhibbukum fillah, we love you for the sake of Allah, and remember, you are special because Islam has chosen you.
Alhamdulillah, that was truly, truly spiritually uplifting. I just feel so blessed to have heard those words of wisdom from you. And of course, the good news is that Sheikha and her husband Sheikh will be joining us for the Saturday morning show right here on Let's Talk, so be sure not to miss it. And of course, later on in the show, we will be talking, in fact, I think we've come to the end of the show. I was so engrossed with what Sheikh had to share with us on the show this morning. It is wrap-up time, but like I've said, remember, they'll be on the show on Saturday morning. Please take care on the roads. As always, it is Assalamu alaikum and Khuda Hafiz from me, Julie Alli.